everyone, and welcome to the Aquillius Ventures virtual private investor meeting today. Just a couple of things. We're going to go through a quick presentation that will be probably about 20 to 25 minutes, and then we'll do Q&A afterwards. But if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to put them in the chat or private message them to me. This meeting will be recorded, so if you have any need to go back and rewatch any parts of this meeting, if you missed anything, you can do that afterwards, and we'll make sure that we get it sent out to you. So I would like to introduce Leah Villages, Managing Partner of Aquillius Ventures, and Mi-Fung Lee, General Partner of Aquillius Ventures. Aquillius Ventures Fund is a $50 million fund based in San Diego, California, and is focused on early stage medtech and life sciences startups. They're looking to invest in pre-seed and seed rounds for startups based in the US, and their mission is to improve human health and create a healthier planet, specifically by focusing on women, children, and the elderly. So with that, I will turn the time over to Mi-Fung and Leah.
Great. Thank you so much, Skylar. Great to be here. Good to see everyone. And thank you for the opportunity to introduce to you Aquillius Ventures. Our mantra is simple: healthy people, healthy planet. Right. And the picture you see here on the first slide is our innovation hub located here in sunny San Diego, which we'll be telling you a little bit more about in the next few slides. So our mission is to improve human health and create a healthier planet. With this fund, we plan to invest in early stage companies at the pre-seed and seed rounds, in companies that are in the life sciences, so biotech, pharma, as well as medtech sectors. And we like to focus on specific sectors that are underserved and underfunded, like women's health, children's health, and elderly health. So a little bit about what makes Aquillius unique, and this is our story. Oh, Mi-Fung, I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. So this is our origin story. Leah and I met in graduate school. We both have a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences. Leah went to Mayo Clinic to do her postdoc, and then I went to the University of Colorado Anschutz Medical Campus in Denver, which we then met back up. So we were there for about 8-9 years developing our own technologies, our own therapies. Leah was focusing on pulmonary hypertension while I was looking at the excessive effects, adverse effects of sugar, and was working with a lot of botanicals trying to develop a pill that people can take, eat their cake, drink their soft drinks, and not have any of these adverse health effects. But during that time, Leah went and got her MBA, and that's when she became very interested in the startup community and especially investing in venture capital and seeing how VCs could really empower the development of new technologies. But we also saw a lot of inefficiencies and barriers where there was just a lot of disconnect for founders and connecting them to certain resources, from technical to scaling up the technology. And then on the VC side, just a lot of inefficiency in capital, where a lot of times the monies that's being invested is spent on infrastructure and buying in equipment that a startup may only be using once or twice a week, and then it goes to waste after that. And so how could we optimize those functionality? And as a result, in 2015, Leah and I and another co-founder founded Microtech, which is a manufacturing electronic company. We then spun out and created Aquillius, which is our innovation hub, in 2021. And now we are raising for our funds so that we can really optimize and streamline all of the infrastructure that we've been building the past 10, 20 years. This is our competitive advantage. We are vertically integrated to support startups and help de-risk a number of the barriers that they face. For instance, we can help them provide technical expertise, help them with the product market fit, provide scalability of their technology through our manufacturing partnerships and our own in-house capabilities. We can also provide regulatory support to help them guide them through medical devices and clinical studies. And now with the VC fund, we can then streamline that process and provide capital, and then also have them with a go-to-market strategy. As mentioned, we have Microtech, which is our innovation or manufacturing facility. It is only 5 minutes away from Aquillius, and we are ISO 13485, which means that we can manufacture medical devices. But besides medical devices, we also have helped Intel and Qualcomm with their next generation of chips. We've also helped JPL and NASA with their chip that they sent out to outer space. And then one of the beautiful things about this is we had initially focused on the R&D stage of companies, really helping them with the design for manufacturing, building out that initial prototyping. But as we were helping these startups go through clinical trials and FDA approval, and they thought they could go out, find a contract manufacturer and start, making all the millions of dollars. A few months later, the startups actually came knocking at a door and begging us if we could actually manufacture for them. And so that's how we expanded our capabilities. And so now we have the ability to do low to mid volume manufacturing. And so we can take a startup from the very idea phase, bring them all the way out into a low mid volume manufacturing, and then connect them with other larger manufacturers and just streamline that whole process. So in 2021, we spun out and created Aquillius, which is our innovation hub. It is 25,000 square foot. We have the wet labs, we have the office space, we have the cell culture room, we have clean rooms, we have vivarium. So a startup can come in, plug and play, and quickly get up and going and developing the technology without having to worry about infrastructure and equipments. In addition, we're very interested in building that ecosystem around the startup to support them. So on a monthly basis, we have our Catalyst Capital Symposia, where we bring in industry academic experts. We highlight, showcase a number of startups, and we try to bring in investors that act as judges to provide them feedback and just really massage the relationship and connect them to the personnel that they need in order to provide their business to grow. Through our hub, we also have been able to attract a lot of talent to it. And as a result, we've been able to build a relatively large venture partner team and a venture analyst team. We have a lot of experts that provide us business, legal, regulatory support. But more importantly, they also are giving us technical and scientific know-how. And as a result, we get to tap into these individuals to help us do our due diligences and really provide us the assessment as to how risky a startup is, if it's a good investment. And more importantly, they provide the expertise, the technical expertise to really help the startups, either through business, regulatory, or scientific needs.
So a little bit about how we are structuring our deal flow, right? And so as Mi-Feng had mentioned earlier, that through our hub, especially through this Catalyst Capital Symposia, is where we're currently having most of our deal flow come through. So through that program, we're actually seeing over 400 applications per year. And like Mi-Feng had mentioned, this is a monthly program, right, where we bring in not only the experts and the investors, but we're also doing a screening process of the startups, right? So any 1 month, we get anywhere from, I would say, 20 to over 100 applications, just depending on that particular theme of the month. Some months are more popular than others. But overall, we're getting about 400 applications per year. We've been running that program for a little over a year now. And then so as we come to, the closings on this fund, We plan to expand that by reaching out to our networks and then doing, further outbound outreaches to more startups. So overall, we plan on doing screenings of about 1,000 applications per year, and then moving forward with due diligence on about 50 companies per year, and then coming to a deal on about 10 companies per year. And so the whole point here, right, because we are working with a lot of early stage companies at the pre-seed and seed stages, is to get them ready for that Series A and beyond, right? And so some of the ways that we are doing that is we're forming partnerships with other VC firms, starting here locally in San Diego, and then eventually we'll go beyond that. But a few examples of those firms here in San Diego are Eli Lilly Ventures, Fraser, I think it's Fraser Life Sciences, and then Lumina Ventures, just 3 examples that invest in Series A and beyond. And then, obviously we'll be doing a lot of investments to make sure these companies are ready, and then also connecting them with the professional networks that are necessary in order to get them to that next inflection point.
So these here are some of our customers. So Senseonics is a company that has developed a continuous glucose monitor that's implantable. They went IPO for about $500 million. We helped them develop their first iteration, which was 3 months, and they are still utilizing us. And we are now developing a technology for 2 years. Ciana Medical is a device that gets implanted in breast tumors. This allows doctors to better locate where the tumor is as the patient's undergoing their treatment. Ciana was acquired by Merit Medical for $200 million. Zerigo is a handheld device that's using UV to treat psoriasis. They're now out in the market. And Previsio just received their FDA approval in January, and now they're coming back to us to be their manufacturer for the device.
Okay. And then these are some of the early stage companies that are coming through the hub and that are within our pipeline now. And so they're at different stages of diligence with us. But either way, these are actually just a few examples. We actually have a nice backlog of companies that we are lining up to do diligence as well. But either way, we are ready to deploy capital into these companies that are in the pipeline now. On the left column here, you'll see Vera, Vera Health and Dionysus Digital Health. That's more on the med tech and diagnostics side. So they actually have already been completed the diligence process with us, and we have the diligence reports ready. So we would be more than happy to share those with you as well if you'd like more information on these 2 companies specifically. In the middle here is Jan Biotherapeutics and Maple Therapeutics, and so they're more on the biotherapeutic and small molecule therapeutic side of things. They're about ready to start the diligence with us. And on the right column here is Stoic Bio and Chakra TechWorks. And so these companies are more on the sustainability side of things. Stoic Bio is just about to complete the diligence, and that report will be ready soon. The numbers that you see here on the bottom of each company are the comparable markets, right? So since these are early stage companies, we don't have a lot of metrics on them yet. So we look at the comparables. And so, that's kind of what we look for as well. Whether they're a good market to penetrate into. Okay. And yeah, so this is just a little bit more about the fund itself. So we are raising a 50 million fund, and it has a normal 10-year term timeline and an investment period of 5 years. The minimum investments that we're looking for is $500K. And we also did open up a special purpose vehicle to allow below $500K, and the minimum there is $50K. And the fees are traditional fees of $2 and $20. And so like we had mentioned, we'll be investing in the pre-seed and seed stage. And so we anticipate on making anywhere from 2 to 8 deals per year. Minimum check sizes into companies would range from 100K up to a maximum of about 3 million. And we are planning to reserve 50% of the fund for follow-on funding for those companies that are doing well, are breaking through. We definitely want to go in on their subsequent rounds. The returns that we are anticipating here are in the range of 15 to 20%. And so that leaves us at a target of multiple invested capital ranging from 4x to 6x. And the target equity that we plan to have within each company would range from 10% to 25%. And this here is our financial model. We'd be happy to share this with you as well if you'd like to take a look and play around with the model a little bit. But given this scenario, right? So if we make an average investment of about 500K per company, and then we have a portfolio of 30 to 40 companies, that would leave the investments at 20 million, and then the follow-ons another 20 million. And so we always like to lean on the conservative side, right, when we make these predictions. So say 50% of the portfolio is unsuccessful, but if we focus on the highly successful companies of the portfolio, that would range from 2.5% to 7.5% of the portfolio, that would leave us at that multiple on invested capital of 4x to 6x. A little bit about the fund operations. So we are using Venture 360 for the fund administration and using Wilson Sonsini for the legal and banking through Mercury Bank. So yes, so we invite everybody to join us on this journey. We'd be more than happy to provide access to our data room. We can send you that link. And if you ever find yourself in San Diego, we invite you to come meet us in person and take a tour of the facilities of the Innovation Hub as well as the manufacturing facilities. And we invite you to come invest, become an LP within the fund. We would like to say that we do have an anchor investor of 5 million. And so we are looking to do that initial close sometime in February or March. And so, this initial close, this milestone will allow us to do that initial deployment of capital into these companies that are waiting in the pipeline. So thank you, everybody, and we'll open it up for questions.
Perfect. Thank you guys so much. We do have a couple questions in the chat, and while I do that, I am going to put up this poll just for the attendees today. You can take a minute and fill that out. The first question is, you mentioned 2 entities, the fund and the manufacturing. If investing in the fund, do you have equity in microtechs?
No, we don't have equity. The fund doesn't have equity in microtech.
Okay. Next question, you're investing in seed. Are your time periods for ROI realistic? How is current government policies affecting grants and regulatory? Will it lengthen the time frame?
Yes, good question. So the first question was related to kind of like a normal timeline.
Yes. Are your ROI periods realistic? Correct.
Our ROI. Yes. So our ROI, would range anywhere from 5 to the 10-year mark, just kind of depending on the company and the sector that they're in. The pharma and biopharma would tend to lean more towards the longer time period. What we're seeing is with the medtech and the sustainability companies, those timelines tend to be shorter. But the goal here is not to have these companies have their technology, their company move from the early stage all the way through, say, like IPO, right? The goal usually is to start to begin to form those partnerships with pharma or any med tech acquirers, and the goal is to get that acquisition, that merger acquisition a lot earlier on than, say, if you were to aim for that true IPO go to market for the company itself. Mifang, I don't know if you have any opinions on that and what you've seen with, the med tech versus pharma companies.
No, I agree, right? With medtech, you can definitely get to market a whole lot quicker. I would say 2 to 5 years, depending on your technology and if you have a predicate device. For therapeutics, that is a longer road ahead, but one of our exit strategy is potentially exiting out at Series A, Series B. So not necessarily having to wait until being bought out or do an IPO.
Yeah, and so that would be our goal, is to get those companies ready for that Series A, right? And so
Yes, and
that
then
would be a good
for the
metric.
second part of the question, which is how is the current administration affecting the development of R&D projects?
Right.
That's a very good question, and I think there's a lot of fear, I think is probably a very good word here. I know that NIH has reduced their overhead from 65, 75% to now just 15%. And that's going to definitely put a lot of burden on universities and research institute as to, are they going to be picking up the difference? If so, how are they going to be able to do that? So I think it's a little bit too early to really know what that impact looks like. Or are there just certain costs that the researchers, founders now have to allocate in? On the SBIR side, I don't think the overhead's going to have that much of an impact because most of the time they don't have that higher amount in there as much.
The overhead, yeah.
Overhead. I think NSF's overhead was already pretty low compared to NIH.
Right.
There's definitely a lot of fear as to who's going to be picking up the support. For us, because we're in that early stage pre-seed seed and coming from academia, we do realize the importance of investing in ideas earlier on and how we can actually get them to hit those milestones. So we're comfortable, right? From academia, we understand kind of what needs to be done. Now it's taking that experience and putting it into a industry environment to help really encourage the founders to hit these milestones that's going to get them to that next stage faster and faster. One of the other potential is to develop other tools so that these startups can then utilize to really help accelerate and streamline some of those processes. And everybody's hearing about it. These AI tools can really help save some time too.
And I think the scientific community in general is actually looking for private capital now to start stepping in because of all these government shenanigans going on, right? And I think the way that we're positioned, this might actually might be a perfect opportunity for us to step in because we are focused on that early stage innovation, right? We're not funding at Series A and beyond where the technology already has to have like proof of concept or already in clinical studies, right? We were kind of like in that middle ground between spinning out of the university and then getting to that next inflection point, right? And so this is where I think a lot of that private capital can actually step in and help out here with the continuation of innovation.
Okay, can I talk for a minute?
Sure.
Yeah.
So my name is Steve Shapiro. I put those two questions out,
Okay.
and I'm a partner in a venture fund that also runs an incubator in the med tech or digital health, med tech, digital diagnostics, digital therapeutics space, and we've been doing it for over 8 years now. And one of the biggest hurdles have been in the US, the regulatory hurdles. And, my concern with FDA It's just being understaffed. It's just the process is going to go much slower now. And
Yeah.
during COVID, we saw some advantages because things were happening a little faster, and just slowing it down. And the time to market just it's just taking a lot longer, and to really reimbursements and who's paying for it and understanding all of that. And I saw you have a lot of regulatory people on your board or advisors to help you navigate that. But I think you're a little optimistic, and I hope it works. With how long it takes to commercialize, and you talk about getting as an investor in a fund, what is your time frame from getting money out? And when you invest in pre-seed and seed, which we do a lot of, it's just taking longer. And just with COVID slows us down, and now with the government doing it and getting funding for a lot of this has been a lot more difficult. So I've kind of gone through a lot of these battle scars, and I'm a little bit in your space, except you're more in the biotech than we are, and we stayed away from biotech just because of the time to market and the high cost to get there. And we also we take a board seat in all of our companies that at least the pre-seed and seed stage that we invest in. I like your model. It makes a lot of sense to me. And some of the examples you gave, I think had to do more with your, getting a contracts for your other, is it microtech?
Yes.
Right. It seems like you were talking about that, not the fund. That's why you're kind of playing it, and I could see the advantage of microtech with the startups, that you're right down the street. There's a lot of advantages and a lot faster to go utilizing your facilities. So anyway, just some of my feedback.
Yeah. So I think for us, those were just examples just to showcase that what we're putting together, we've been able to be successful. And so now we're expanding
as a team, right?
As a team. Now we're expanding that, right? Now we're going to not just the devices, but we're also doing the therapeutics and making those partnerships. I think it's just streamlining the operations, right? As you know from your own experience, that a lot of times startups founders don't focus on operations and manufacturing until a little bit too late in the game. And what we're trying to say here is have that plan very early on, because it could have a huge impact on your development of your technology. The case in point is these devices. We've had founders come to us with a design asking us to manufacture that for them, and we would advise them it's not the most ideal. It's very expensive because of how you've designed it, or it's not very robust. They, of course, have been spending a lot of time, a lot of money, and are in love with their design, and they would say, oh, no, it's good, just do it for us. And then a year later, 2 years later, they come back and said, yeah, we should have really listened to you, because we're now back to the drawing board. They've wasted
product market fit. You have to, and you mentioned that, and I was happy to hear that. That's so critical at that stage before you invest any money, to understand it. And you fall in love with the problem, not the solution.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think that's what we're trying to do here, is really help them get connected a lot sooner and earlier, because that could have a huge impact on what you're doing now. And that's the same thing with therapies. We have heard stories of people spending a lot of time, a lot of money developing some enzyme. They finally get to manufacturing, and they can't generate enough yield for their product. Or it's going to be extremely expensive to make. And then, who's going to pay for that? And so if they had that in mind early on, this could really help them. And so I think that's what we're saying here is we want to connect them to these resources early on, so that it helps them in their business strategy, and then help them get connected to the people who's going to be a big player in them, and start forming those partnerships now.
Yeah, and that could help with shortening of a timeline, right? Because that's, you know, the major bottleneck that we're seeing. Like even if they were for some of the companies that have gone through the FDA approval, right? And then they're ready to start, you know, manufacturing for their clinical study, right? As an example. But then that's the major bottleneck, right? Now you're producing more than one or two parts, you need, you know, a few hundred, a few thousand parts for your clinical study, and they can't get past that, right? And then it's just sitting there, FDA approved device, and it, you know, it can't go to market because of those barriers in manufacturing. And so that's where we want to step in and help.
So they have to be physically located in your area, just because of the use of the facility. So if you have a med tech company
Not
that
necessarily.
doesn't, you know, have to use the manufacturing, could they be remote?
Yes. I think for us is we're highly encouraging that they come and be a part of our community because
Right.
we've already built all this infrastructure and it's a de-risking for them and it's also de-risking for the investors, but it's not
Right.
a requirement.
Okay. Interesting.
And what we want to do is present to them a number of options like we do with anything, right? Say if they need, you know, a law firm resource or an HR resources.
Right.
We're presenting them more than one option. Like here's, you know, 3 or 4, you go in and do your diligence on these firms because each firm has their own, you know, uniqueness and capabilities to offer, right? And so they're the companies themselves are the ones that's choosing the best fit for, you know, for the company.
I don't want to dominate.
No problem. I know we have another question that says, how much have you circled so far, and are there any lead investors of the note?
Yes.
So we have a $5 million anchor. And then we have a few other individuals as well that want to go into the SPV. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mifang. And so that's what we're trying to gather now to you know, go into the first closing by March. And then we'll be doing multiple closings throughout, you know, 2025 for the other individuals that had said that they, you know, maybe Q2 would be a better timeline for them.
We did just sign up another LP for
We did.
$500 million. So now we're at 5.5. And then we are soft circling a fund of funds. We're meeting them for the 3rd time. And if they do invest, they typically invest potentially up to 40% of the fund. So they do 5 to 20 million.
Okay, great. And then the next question is, what percentage of your proposed portfolio will be in healthcare and life sciences, and how does this break down in terms of medtech, health tech, biotech, etc.?
So for us, it really is going to depend on the companies that comes in our path. I think we are most likely leaning towards more medtech, biotech than therapeutics, probably just maybe 2 or 3 therapeutic companies just because of the long runway. But our focus here would be really going after technologies that, as Leah mentioned, has been underserved, underfunded, because that means there's a huge market in front of us for their technology. So that's what we're excited about: women's health, children's health, and elderly health.
Okay, great. And then I think that is it for our questions. I know we have a few people on. If you have any further questions, we welcome you to stay on for Leah and Mifang, but otherwise we can end the session here. So we want to thank everyone for joining, and you'll get this session emailed to you via email, but you'll get the recording emailed to you later this afternoon or tomorrow if you'd like to review it again. But thank you everyone for joining. And like I said, if you have any other questions, feel free to stay on.